When you think of Motorola, what comes to mind? A high-end tech company that helps innovate? Maybe that sleek little flip phone called the Razr in the mid-2000s? How about the many smartphone versions of that Razr phone that came out after that? Or you could be more recent than that, with the Droid Turbo, the Droid smartphones, any of them. There were tons. Well, the company who has helped push the envelope many times before is back at it again with the Moto Z lineup of phones. This is Bad Tech and Gaming with a full product review of the Motorola Z2 Force. Moving forward with the review, let's set the stage. Today, we're asking a few questions first. Are the Moto mods good enough to make this phone worth the money? And will the Motorola Z-series phones and the Moto mods change your perspective on how you should use your smartphones on a day-to-day basis? And maybe even, is this the best sleeper phone of 2017, or is it just underrated? Let's find out. As always, we have 4 categories: great, good, bad, and horrible. On to our first category, the greats. First thing you will notice about this phone is when you hold it, how thin it is. It almost feels like you're holding one of those glass smartphone-like devices that Tony Stark uses in really any of his Marvel movies, and not to mention, after the first impression of holding it, you will notice how solid it is. It's mostly aluminum, and glass body is sturdier than I actually anticipated, including the border around the outside being metal. I am noticing a few scuffs, but I did drop it on a concrete floor. As my full-time job, I walk over a concrete floor, and I'm sometimes fairly clumsy. Couple that with the high-end attention for detail. An example would be that power button being textured differently, much like it was on the Pixel, than the volume buttons, the rear LED flash and camera housing being raised ever so slightly to protect that rather rear large glass camera cover, and the fingerprint scanner blending more in this generation of phones with the front. It definitely feels like a second generation phone. The screen will be joining us in the great category. On this phone, it is some type of plastic. However, I did just throw a glass screen protector on there to avoid scratches, and boom, it feels normal. Having this newish type of screen means I don't necessarily have to keep my phone in a case, seeing as 60% of the reason of purchasing a case is to protect that front glass screen. So this begins to change my perspective on exactly how I can actually use my phone on a day-to-day basis. However, I will note, if you do not get a glass screen protector, you will have a bad day, I promise. The fingerprint scanner actually makes it into the great category. Now, not because of its placement, but because of its functionality. You can use this as an all-in-one button. You can press the home button, of course press it to go home. You can hold it for the Google Assistant, swipe left to act as the back button, and swipe right to get to your recent apps screen. Not only is this a cool feature, but it frees up a boatload of space on the front of the screen. And well, is that not part of the reasons why the Samsung phones are a little bit taller? Just saying. Moving on to software, and a lot of these features do come on the great category. Not all of them, but a lot of them. If you've ever used a Motorola phone, there are some really cool features here, like the Moto Actions. You can chop twice to turn on your flashlight, unless if you're actually making a phone call, which is irritating. Why would that not work? I don't know. You can also twist your wrist twice to pull up the camera, which is extremely handy. I guess they do have the double tap the power button on other phones, so there is some similarities there. There's also a swipe to shrink the screen, and a pick up to stop ringing, and a flip to do not disturb, which honestly, those last 3 I used once, then turned off. Yeah, I don't know that those ones are going to make it into the great category. With every flagship smartphone, the specs are in the great category. Now, the reason this is last on here is on purpose. On paper, it's just like every other flagship smartphone. Any Android smartphone nowadays has similar specs, and where it lacks, it's not terribly far off the competition. I will throw them up on the screen, but I will not spend too much time here because its internals are blazing fast. You do get a near stock Android experience, which will give any flagship smartphone a run for its money. With that being said, you can tell how they really didn't necessarily focus on how smooth the software was, unlike the Pixel, which I do kind of regret a little. It does get glitchy. It gets a little glitchy, and I think I got spoiled with my Pixel. So the Pixels and the newer ones will beat that out. But also some of the Moto settings here do tend to reset automatically. So for that reason, I will have to go back and redo them constantly. And luckily, they are simple, so I will not get terribly upset. But that kind of thing shouldn't be on any Android smartphone of this generation. There is one more great that pertains to this smartphone but is not directly about it. So I'm going to leave it to the end of the review as it does not directly impact the smartphone. Before we get to the good category, if you agree with any of these points, please click the thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Hit that notification button as I do have a few Google product reviews coming up soon that I think you'll be very interested in if you're at all interested in anything Android or Google. Next up, the good category. First up here is the camera. It's a good camera, but it leaves some to be desired. The monochrome sensor is cool, but a wide-angle lens would have been more useful. The camera is not quite as quick to point and shoot as the Pixel was, and it sometimes takes me 2 or 3 shots to get what I really want. I didn't have this issue with my last phone or even the phone before it, so it does beg the question, why? Also good is the night mode. It is an awesome feature and allows you to schedule times day and night to be on or off, but is it too much to ask for a simple toggle switch? It doesn't have that. You can't turn it on or off, and there are some one-off situations where I would love that. Now this one almost makes it to the great category. The speaker. It's actually in the earpiece, which actually after using it does leave me wonder, why is this not standard on every smartphone? Seriously, who still has bottom-firing speakers and why? With that being said, it is not the loudest speaker in the world, so that's why it ends up in a good category. It is a decent quality, could be better, but you know what? The fact that I'm playing video games and it is facing me is just an awesome thing because I don't muffle it and I play a lot of video games. If you watch my Asus ZenPad gaming review, you'll know. A quick mention in the good category is the front-facing flash. It's cool, but I used it once. Only once. Other than that, I like to actually use my thumbnail to press it as the shatter shield is slightly raised off the LED, which will make a little sticky sound if you press it in and with your nail. It's kind of odd, yeah, but I find myself actually doing that a lot. Every phone has some bad things about it, and as none are perfect. The Moto Z2 simply scratches too easily. I bought this phone for my brother and my mother, whom have said that this screen scratches way too easily. Needless to say, I made sure they got a screen protector very quickly. This is a must with this phone. As I had mentioned before, if you plan on buying this phone, well, and you think, well, I don't need one, 6 months down the road, you will not be a happy camper, I promise. Also in the bad category is the camera autofocus. It works most of the time, and it's fine, but sometimes it will not take a clear photo, and this can get very frustrating. I'm sure it's completely software based because other smartphones with similar sensors do a way better job. Coming from a Pixel, I do notice some lag. And it's once in a blue moon, it's not all the time, so I do have to throw that in the bad category because I did notice it. But I suppose I should not be surprised. If it's not a Google Pixel, it's gonna have some lag, don't care what phone you use. And it is really hard for me to pick out horrible features about these flagship smartphones, but there is one big thing here. The 2700 milliamp hour battery. Seriously, it's just not enough. And this will only get worse over the years. Now I do have a fix for this horrible feature, and it is the last thing in the great category that I've actually not mentioned, specifically the Moto mods. Now, these are not tied, they attach onto the back of the phone, but they do not come with the phone, so I did not want to mention them until the very end. I felt that was appropriate. However, this phone with the Moto mods did change my perspective on how a smartphone should be used and a little bit of the smartphone industry. First off, with the shatter shield, I know it's not a Moto mod, but I do not have to have a case on my phone. I really don't. I'm not worried about the screen cracking, and a little dent here or there is gonna happen, so I'm not worried about it. This makes room for the Moto mods to be always attached. With that, I always have a Moto battery pack attached, giving me over 5,000 milliamp hours of battery on a daily basis. This makes my phone no bigger than a normal phone with an OtterBox on it, a commuter or symmetry series to be exact. Not to mention the pricing of the Moto mod is actually similar to those higher end cases. So I get kind of a case and a 2-day battery life out of my phone. On my lunch breaks at work, I actually keep the speaker mod in my lunch bag. And yes, I do carry a lunch bag to work, mostly because of the Moto mod, so I did kind of have to change a little bit there. However, I can set up my phone on kickstand, hook it up to Bluetooth, so I don't actually use the speaker, but I use the kickstand on it. I can watch YouTube videos from popular YouTubers while watching lunch without having to lean my phone up against something or rely on a case. Now, I will be doing a separate Moto mods video a little bit later. I will break, there'll be shorter videos. I'll break each mod down, what I do, don't like, how often do they work, do they not work, all of it. I will be using them extensively and only giving my review after I've used them for at least 2 weeks. Now, if you're tired of hearing me, that's good. This is the conclusion paragraph. In conclusion, with a Moto mod battery, this phone is amazing. Specs to rival even the newest smartphones, the flagships in particular, and additional features that I can actually use on a daily basis that make my life easier. This phone was a great decision for me and truly has changed the way I look on smartphones probably forever. Or is this phone worth the price? Yes. However, a good deal does make this decision easier. I would recommend this to anybody who thinks battery life is more important than really most other features on a smartphone. With that being said, thank you so much for watching. Please leave a comment down below, as I truly do want to hear what you have to say. What do you guys think? Do you like this phone? Do you not like this phone? Do you understand how this phone works? Do you understand how these can be used on a daily basis? If not, I'll make a video on it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, as I am on the long road to 1,000 subs. Thank you guys again. With that being said, it is time to end.